I asked my friend Steve Kerr to zoom in, and you were awfully nice to do so. Great to have you on the show, and thanks for always making the time for us.
Yeah, good to be on with you, Suzy. How you doing?
I'm great. We were just joking about how the Pittsburgh Penguins had lost a shipment of Jaromir Jagr bobbleheads, and they're saying that it was stolen. Now, we think it's a really crazy story. Wondering what your favorite piece of useless memorabilia might be. Not that a Jaromir Jagr bobblehead wouldn't be a collector's item for families across the country.
The bobblehead stuff has exploded over the last 10 years. We have so many creative bobbleheads for the Warriors. I have a bunch of them in my office. There's one with Klay Thompson on his kayak with his dog in the back of the kayak. So I think that's my favorite.
That's fantastic. How have you dealt with Klay Thompson this year with your decision to have him come in off the bench? How did that go?
Klay is, we've been together 10 years, so we have a great relationship. We've known each other for so long. We've been through so much. This year has been a challenge for Klay because he's used to being, this Hall of Fame scorer, defender, all-star, and coming off two career-threatening injuries, an Achilles and an ACL at, now 33, 34 years old. That stuff's not easy, and all athletes have to deal with their own mortality at some point. And I think Klay's been going through some of that. And my job as his coach is to help him through it, to help him understand how he can still be effective, because he's still really good. I just think he has such high standards for himself that he wants to be great every single night. And it's just not going to happen like that. And so he's really found peace. I think the decision to ask him to come off the bench, I think in some ways it's helped take some pressure off of him. He's really embraced it. He's in a good place mentally, probably the best place he's been in all year. And he's played really, really well since we made that move.
Steve, I'm wondering, we just had Matthew Hamachek on, the director of the Dynasty, the New England Patriots doc that's on Apple right now. And we were talking about Bill Belichick at length. I'm wondering who the coaches are that have influenced you the most. They don't just have to be in the NBA, but across sports.
Oh, man, what a great question. My own coaching mentors, I think everybody would figure that out if they followed my playing career. I mean, Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich are just incredible coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. Same with Lute Olson. All of them influenced me so much. I would say the coach who influenced me the most from outside of basketball is probably Pete Carroll. And I just love Pete. I love his energy. I love his authenticity. I went and visited him in Seattle and watched him work. Actually, it was the summer before I started my job with the Warriors. And we were connected by mutual friends, and I just wanted to see how he went about his business. And I spent about 3 days there sitting in on meetings, going to practices, and I was just blown away. I think Pete is probably the guy. If you want to learn how to coach and teach culture, I don't think there's anybody better than Pete. And so we've remained friends and stayed in touch over the years. I'm just a huge fan of how he coaches and how he treats his players, and he had a huge impact on me for sure.
Steve Kerr joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Suzy Shuster in for Rich, and I love that because I covered Pete for his USC run here, so got to know him really well and just absolutely love him as a person. I wonder how you find coaching the younger guys changes as you get older and how you're able to relate to them and get them to play for you. Obviously, Nick Saban's been really vocal saying how much of a part of his decision to retire came from NIL and dealing with these guys. So how do you continue to find ways to relate to some of these young players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important part of growing as a coach. If you get stuck in your ways and you're not expanding and you're not learning, you're going to get left behind no matter who you are. And I think when I look at guys like Pete or Nick Saban or Greg Popovich, guys who have coached for many, many years and spanning different eras, different age groups, I think they all share the same thing in common, which is an openness to learning, just being lifelong learners and adapting to the players as generations change, as the social norms change. You really have to adapt as a coach, and I think it's actually what makes it kind of fun too. As the players get younger and society changes, and you kind of connect with the guys, and you get to know them. It's a fun part of the job because you grow really strong relationships that way. And again, it's the coaches who are open to learning who are the ones who tend to last longest and to have success for a long period of time.
What is the state of the union of the Golden State Warriors?
I think we're actually in a pretty good place. I mean, when you consider what we've done for, the last decade, even going back before I got here, with Mark Jackson for a couple of years, this run has lasted 12 years. And it's not easy keeping these things going. But what we're trying to do is grow our young talent base, which I feel good about. We've got some good talented guys with Kuminga and Moody and Trace Jackson Davis, Brandon Podziemski. But our older guys are still really good. They're still really relevant. Steph's at the top of his game. Draymond and Klay are still very effective. This year has been about finding that mix of putting them all together and finding success. And I feel good about our team. We're hopeful that Steph's going to be back Saturday against the Lakers. And if we can stay healthy, I really like our chances to make a push. I know we're not where we want to be, but this is also the reality of an aging team that's also trying to, get the next era ready. And this league is fiercely competitive, but I like our squad. I like our group. Great chemistry, great energy, and I hope we can, get healthy down the stretch and make a really good run.
How's Steph's ankle?
It's good. Yeah, we escaped what could have been a bad situation. He's been practicing the last couple of days with our G League team in the city while we've been on the road, and he's going to meet us in LA tomorrow for practice. And if he goes through practice fine, then he'll be in the lineup Saturday. But we'll take it day by day.
Do you talk to Pop very much, Greg Popovich, about Wembanyama? I'm just curious because even my 13-year-old said to me, "Mom, you've got to ask Coach about the Trace Jackson Davis dunk on Wemby the other night because it really looked like it energized your team." And this kid is he's so massive. His leg went flying up in the air. He looked like a marionette for a second.
Yeah, we played the Spurs back to back the last few days, and I had a chance to visit with Pop before our game in San Francisco, and then after the one in San Antonio. We're great friends. He remains a mentor for me. I'm coaching the Olympics this summer, and he was the Olympic coach, in 21. So I'm asking him his advice on that stuff. But I did ask him about Wembanyama, and he loves him. He said he's really coming along, and he thinks he's going to be a great, great player. And it's easy to see. I mean, he just there's never been anybody like him at that size with that skill. The dunk by Trace the other night was just one of the plays of the year. Just I don't know how Trace got it over the top of Victor. I mean, that's I didn't know it was humanly possible.
And now we hear that there's a brother that's going to be even taller, which is scary because I can't even imagine having one Wemby, but to have two just seems greedy.
How about being mom and having to feed those guys? That wouldn't be easy.
I mean, we have to see the mother versus the Kelsey mom. I mean, this is another reality shows we're putting these together, always spitballing here on the Roku channel. If you don't coach, what would you do?
Well, I did have a job as a broadcaster at one point, and I loved that. It was a great time for me in my life because my kids were under the roof still, and I had a lot of time with them, but stayed in touch with the game. It's funny because Pop and Phil were always known as these guys who had a lot of interest outside the game. And yet when it came down to it, they both could not stay away. And, Phil came back to the Knicks as GM. Pop has coached for 25 years now. I just can't imagine doing anything else. I do have interest outside the game, but I don't have the passion for anything like I do for coaching and basketball and being part of a team. So I can't imagine doing anything else, to be honest with you.
It's hard when you're so used to living this life and you've achieved such a high level at it. What's your favorite Phil Jackson story?
My favorite Phil Jackson story, Dennis Rodman was drifting apart from the team one year emotionally. He was a very quiet guy, behind the scenes, and separated himself from the group sometimes. So Phil would try to pull him back in. And so one day in Philadelphia, we had a game. And after the game, we had that night free staying in Philadelphia. Phil came to Jud Bushler and me, and he said, "Hey, listen, Dennis is drifting away from the team. I want you guys to go with him to Atlantic City tonight. He chartered a bus. He's going down there to play blackjack, and I want you guys to hang with him." And Jud and I were like, "Oh, okay. Well, we're just the guys for the job." So we had a wild night with Dennis in Atlantic City. Stayed out all night. Came back to the hotel at like 7 a.m, and we had to practice that morning. And as we walked into the hotel, there was Phil looking at us, and Judd and I didn't know how to behave. And he just said, "Go get your stuff on. Practice starts in 2 hours." And Dennis had the day off because all the starters had the day off. And he just turned to us and said, "See you later, suckers." And it was that story perfectly encapsulates Phil, because no other head coach would encourage a couple of his players to spend a crazy night with Dennis in a casino. But Phil understood people. He understood Dennis. He knew the power that he had on our team. And that was Phil's solution, which was genius.
I can see the look on his face. I think I've seen it several times from covering the Lakers with him, so I totally get it. What do you know about Dennis Rodman that we don't know?
That he is a kind, gentle soul who loves his teammates. He is emotional. He's passionate about life, about people, about the game. So everything that you saw, or that you continue to see, I guess at times, to me is kind of an act. It's just it's just Dennis kind of messing around, but at his core, he's just a wonderful soul.
2 more questions for Steve Kerr before you go. We were talking, as I said, about the Patriots Dynasty documentary. Would you ever want maybe one of something like that on the Warriors, or did you ever watch any of those? And what are your thoughts on them? Obviously, you were a part of the Jordan one.
I can't wait to watch the Dynasty. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm a huge NFL fan, and I love stories like these. I know how popular The Last Dance was. It is very invasive, though, to have cameras behind the scenes at all times. And I was actually shocked that Phil agreed to do that in The Last Dance. I think there probably will be something done on the Warriors, but I don't think I would let the cameras behind the scenes 24/7. That you just have to have some sanctity in the locker room. You have to have some privacy and some moments that don't get shared with the world. But these days, that's almost impossible. The way the game is covered, the way sports are in general. But these stories, as a fan, they're just fascinating to watch.
I mean, fascinating is the only word. I can't talk about it enough. Last question. I love and appreciate and value how outspoken you are about politics and social justice and the like. Steph Curry saying that he wouldn't rule out a career in politics after playing basketball. Thoughts on Governor Curry?
He's one of the finest human beings I've ever met. And I've met a lot of wonderful people in my time, but Steph is so talented, but so authentically humble, and yet incredibly gifted and confident all at once. It's this wonderful combination. The way he treats people, the way he uses his popularity for good, he'd be amazing, because he genuinely cares about people and the welfare of his community in the Bay, and I'd vote for him for sure.
What about you? Would you ever enter politics?
I can't imagine. My pet project is gun violence prevention. As you know, I lost my dad to gun violence when I was 18. He was 52. I'm very passionate about doing something in our country to reduce gun violence, because we do have a problem that exists in no other country in the world. So the solutions are there, the answers are there. I imagine I will be very involved in that capacity, in being part of the movement as the younger generation rises, as the younger kids in this country get into places of being public servants, being elected servants in our country. There's going to be change, and I'd like to be part of it. I'd like to help, because it's an epidemic that needs to be stopped, and it's insane, really, what we allow in this country when we know there are solutions out there.
Well, I'm so grateful to have met you through that and to continue to work with you on that. And I want to say thank you for your time. I know how busy you are. I appreciate that you made the time to join us here today, and really looking forward to seeing you right back on the show whenever possible.
Thanks so much for having me, Suzy.
Have a great day. Thanks again, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Steve Kerr of the Golden State Warriors, and just an incredible human being and an advocate for all good things. It's great to have him here on the show.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.